I'm en route to Vermont to pick up or hunt down what's called an irregular slab of slate. That is, it's just a rough thing that's been blasted from the wall. There's a very good chance I'm going to be coming home later tonight completely empty-handed. I haven't done a piece like this before, and it's just going to be so appropriate to the person who's passed on. It just would fit him so much better than like a polished piece of slate. All right, so I'm at the quarry, and there are a lot of pieces that you can choose from. Before I forget, it would really help the channel if everyone watching hit like, subscribe, as well as those little funeral bells. And for those wanting to keep this dying art form alive, please consider donating to my Patreon, Stones Over Bones. Okay, back to the video. I'm looking specifically for, 54 by 24 by 2, somewhere within those lines. So, these are beautiful pieces, but it's too wide. So I'm looking for something long, really. Like something like this isn't bad. That's really too thick, though. It's much too thick. There are a lot of boxes that this slate piece has to fit. 1, it has to be a beautiful shape. 2, it has to have an unfading color. 3, it has to have no joint lines, which are weak spots. 4, ideally, no flint lines. 5, fit the dimensions. And 6, just having no right edges. So this one fit the dimensions we needed and had a really beautiful cleft surface, but when I wet it, you could clearly see all the iron and brown spots. So this red piece caught my attention, but in order to really consider it, you first have to clear away the debris, move any stones covering it, then dust it off, and finally give it a quick wash to see the color. No, don't do this to me. It's got one right here, see? Look at here. I should have always looked at the sides first. This was another potential piece I found lying in some bushes. It had a beautiful gray color and a really interesting shape, almost like the silhouette of a man standing up. The problem, however, was that the surface was just a bit too rough for a carved inscription. This one was another beautiful piece, but just way too thin, unfortunately. And this one had a gorgeous surface, but the shape of it would have looked like a little triangle sticking out of the ground. I'm coming home with a piece of slate. Somewhere in this rubble is the winning piece. I just gotta find it. All right, got some pieces over here. Interesting, those aren't bad. Wow, this side's even better. I think that's nice. A beautiful red color. Look, it's 52. We want something under 54. Then this part under 24. Name right here. That is pretty good. Look at how the striations are going from top right to bottom left. Beautiful. So after searching around the boneyard for a few hours, I spoke with the family, and we all agreed that this red piece checked off all the boxes. It fit the dimensions, had a 2-inch depth, no side splitting. The silhouette was incredible. It was wide enough to fit a name, the riven surface was just flat enough to carve, and the red color was absolutely phenomenal. Red slate is very rare, one of the hardest colors to obtain from a quarry. The only issue was that we felt it leaned a little bit too far right. So to fix that, we decided to cut the bottom at a slight angle to make the above grade section a bit more plumb. So Joe helped bring it up to the mill. We positioned it on the cutting bed and sliced off that bottom edge nice and clean so that the memorial would stand more plumb. So after a 3.5-hour car ride back to Somerville, I finally offloaded this into my studio and leaned it up against the wall. I can't tell you how much I lucked out on this find. Now that I had the stone, I could begin designing an inscription to fit within it. So I first siloed the edge of the slate and recreated the dimensions as best I could. Because the right side was relatively straight, I ultimately felt that a right justified position worked best. This left enough room for an epitaph below. The family chose the phrase, "Hang on, St. Christopher," which is deeply rooted in religious tradition as a plea for protection for travelers, and also made popular by Tom Waits, one of Mark's favorite musicians. So I put together 3 different options, but none really felt right. And then I got an idea. Why not use letters inspired by Tom Waits' album covers? And if we're going for this style, let's also look at those found in the paintings of David Lynch, another artist Mark admired. It was a really fun experiment, breaking all the rules of calligraphy and graphic design. I combined upper and lowercase letters, shrank or enlarged some at random, raised or lowered others from the baseline. Each stroke was jagged, disconnected, and intense, as if written by the hand of a madman. I sent all variations to the family, thinking they would never go for this wildcard option. But to my surprise, they absolutely loved it. I don't think I've ever seen this style on a memorial before. I couldn't wait to start carving them. So the time has finally come to transfer the design onto this irregular piece of red slate. So what I've first done is put it on a piece of wood, and then I have a door jamb that I've banged into it until it's perfectly level. And from this, I'm going to create a plumb line, and then I can do this, score lines based on that. To position the text on the stone, I created this little box which indicates with strings the baseline of the names and dates. And by holding it up to the stone, I can avoid problematic bumpy areas or any iron pockets within the slate. So after a lot of tweaking, I finally determined the best position on the riven surface. Using carbon paper, I then transferred each letter onto the stone by outlining its shape. Because of the rough surface, a lot of the detail gets lost during the process, so I took a long time to really make the strokes crisp, flipping up the paper like an animator until it looked right. With all the letters and numbers now on the stone, it was time to sharpen my chisels. Alright, so I'm finally ready to start carving the McDonough memorial. I've never really carved into red slate before, so I'm kind of curious how it will behave. Okay, so initial thoughts. It's kind of like sticky. It's more like more muddy, I guess, is a way to put it. And it's interesting, I'm so used to seeing green and gray and black turning a whiter color. This is very unusual. It's like it's going from like a burnt sienna to more of like a salmon, pink or something. So I'm hoping it will still be legible. But it's coming along fine. After carving the numbers, it was on to the epitaph. I put on Twin Peaks to get in the mood and started tapping away. Although these letters may look primitive or childlike, they still had to be carved with great precision. I really wanted to capture the individual strokes, which seemed as if they were repeatedly scratched in with a ballpoint pen. Carving such a completely different style was a lot of fun, and when it was all done, I thought it looked incredible in the sun. There was, however, one small dilemma. The question is, do I want to paint these letters? I mean, it really looks good in the sun, but, if this sun goes away, so I don't know. It could either be done now or put in another day's work just to paint this. So I've decided to paint the letters, which is going to be a pain in the butt because this is a natural cleft, so you can't paint outside the letters and then sand down the surface to clean up the edges. You have to be very, very precise. So I've done some, samples here, and I think I'm just going to go with a gray, because I think gray, like a light gray, will look very nice. But I want it to be subtle. After finishing the epitaph, I began painting the name, and this is a sped up version. In reality, it's a lot slower. This is real time, me painting, and you really get a sense of the pace of all this. I felt that a broken brushstroke would be very much in tune with the overall feeling of this memorial. So I charged my brush with just the right viscosity of paint and gently applied within the V-cut. This gave the inscription a wonderfully weathered look. When it came to painting the serifs, I really had to hold my breath to keep a steady hand. Whenever painting on a riven surface, there's really no room for errors. And I'm really glad I took the trouble because I felt the inscription was far more legible now.
At the same time, the painted letters didn't distract from the beauty of the riven surface. They blended seamlessly together. The memorial was now ready to be set, or planted, as I prefer to say. So I loaded up the car, drove to the cemetery in New Hampshire, and leveled it straight in the ground. Mark's final resting place is particularly beautiful. A meandering river flows just beyond his memorial, bringing a sense of peace and tranquility to his wild and adventurous life.